Okay, so we've just ended with press, roll, separate, withdraw, and push. Okay? The next move, traditionally this is all considered one move, but we break it up into a few different moves. So the next move is the single whip series of moves. So from here, single whip is going to look like drop, wipe, gather water, and single whip. Okay? So that's what it looks like. The biggest thing you might notice from that is that we're going from the east direction and we're turning 180 degrees to the west. All right? So that is a little more challenging than just turning 90 degrees. When we turned 90 degrees, I'm going to turn from here to here, we sunk back, turned this toe in to the 45-degree angle, and then stepped out. Okay? We weren't really moving our feet that much. We were pretty much just changing the angles of them and kind of moving them just to get there. For this move, we're going to be making a 180-degree turn. So I'm not going to worry about the hands of the moves yet. So just let the hands rest in front. I'm going to sink back. I'm going to turn in, bring my right toe in. If I were doing a 90-degree turn, I'd stop my right foot at this 45-degree angle. But instead, what I'm going to do is bring this right toe in as far as I comfortably can. In an ideal world, this foot would be pointing straight to the north, okay? But if you can't get it to the north, don't worry about it. We have a couple ways around that. So here we go again. After the push, just going to let my hands relax. Sink back and turn. Right toe turns way in. For now, I'm going to say we can get it pointing straight ahead. But as soon as we get over there, I'll show you a couple different options. Shift. So at this point, you want all your weight on your on your left foot, knee pointing in the same direction as the toe. So you're kind of closed in here. This is going to be okay for the knee. What you'll find is having weight on both knees, this is going to mess things up a bit. So you want to get all the weight. When you come here, you want to keep all the weight on the left foot and then shift all the weight to the right foot. Okay? From here, we want to step out into what's going to be a bow stance facing the west. To do that, we want to reach way back, diagonally behind here, okay? And point the toe to the west. So right now, my feet are in this weird position here. So as I start shifting my weight to my left foot, my right toe can kind of sneak around till it's at a 45-degree angle. All right, so we have a few things to talk about with this. First of all, from here, let's say I can't bring my toe too far around here. Let's say I can only bring it about this far. 45 degrees, maybe I can bring it like 60 degrees in, okay? I'll shift my weight. I'm going to step out here, toe pointing to the side wall. Just like I said before, you can keep that out there. You're just in a little bit more of an open stance now. But as you begin to shift your weight to your left foot, you'll notice that the right foot lightens up. We never want to let the knee go past the toe, but we can get to about that 70% place and the toe lightens up. And I can turn my hips, and as I turn my hips, my right toe is going to come around. Okay? We're going to be doing this toe adjustment whether you get your foot pointing here or whether it's pointing out here. But it's a little bit more awkward being in this wide open a stance. Okay? But that is an option for bringing your toe around. So there's one other option. This is called the heel cheat. You are perfectly welcome to do this. This is actually how I first learned the move. So I'm going to sink back. Let's say I can't get my toe around that far. as I shift my weight back, instead of stepping out, I'm going to make a pit stop and step behind, lift up my right heel, and swing my right heel around. So now I've actually already got my right foot pointing on the 45-degree angle, and now I can very easily step into a bow stance in this direction. Okay? And if you didn't get the foot around, then you can just bring it around a little bit more when you make the toe adjustment. All right? So those are a couple of different ways to deal with it. What I would suggest is see how your legs feel and choose one of those stepping methods and stick with it and work with that. Okay? And just keep repeating it over and over again. Once you get that stepping method down, then you can go back and over time you can adapt it to do what works in a different way for you. There is one more thing to talk about with the stepping. So I'm going to turn this 90 degrees so you can see this. Let's say we just finished up from the end of the last video, the push. Notice the bow stance, I have the width between my feet, okay? You can see the space between my feet. I haven't narrowed up here. So I'm going to sink back and turn, stepping out. Now what people will often do is they'll step here. But if you notice, when I make the adjustment, I now have a really narrow stance. We wanted to be out about here, okay? So when I'm doing this move, I need to make a conscious effort to reach out, put the heel down, open up the toe, and then come around. And so now I have a nice bow stance, okay? So let's put that into practice. From the push, hands drop flat. Just let the hands be in front of you. Sink back, turn. Right toe comes way around. Shift the weight. And remember, we want to get into a bow stance. So reach out. You're going to reach out diagonally with the foot. Heel down, toe pointing, and then shift the weight. Right toe comes around into a bow stance. When you're doing this, you might find that you need to practice the move to get the feel of a good size step. There might be times when you're so focused on reaching out with this foot that you're taking way too big a step, okay? There might be other times where you find, oh, you've reached way out and you come around and you're in this tiny step. There is nothing inherently wrong with either of these size steps, but you're going to want to get into a place that you're comfortable with to feel the shift of the weight and the flow of the movement, okay? All right, let's do this again, and I'm going to put a little bit more into the hands. So after the push, hands drop flat. I'm going to sink back, and as I turn, my arms are going to sweep around with me. This is called wipe. It's almost like my hands are resting on a countertop and I'm brushing all the crumbs off of the countertop. But you'll notice that my hips are turning and my hips are bringing the toe in and swinging the arms around, okay? So then we'll come back. I'm forgetting about the arms now. Stepping out, toe pointing out, shift the weight, right toe comes around. All right. Let's add more into the arms. In fact, we'll add the rest of it in. So after the push, hands drop flat. Sink back, wipe, like you're brushing crumbs off of a countertop. Shift the weight back. Next is gather water. So we're going to take the left hand and we're going to scoop up with the left hand while the right hand forms what's called a beak. This beak is going to have all the fingers touching the thumb, and they're going to be drooping down out in front of the right shoulder, okay? You'll notice elbow is relaxed, shoulder is relaxed. You're going to have a tendency to do this and to do this, but we want to keep that nice and relaxed. So let's do this again. From the push, drop, wipe, brushing the crumbs off. Shift the weight, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand forms a beak. If you want to, you can think of this as a spout of water pouring into the bottom hand. Then we're going to reach out with the foot, stepping down, toe pointing out. And as we shift the weight, the beak is going to stay here pretty much still in space, and the left arm is going to sweep out, opening up with the torso. Right toe releases around. Okay? So that's where we've gotten so far. You'll notice this arm is still pointing roughly out in this direction. If it creeps in a little bit, it's not that big a deal. The big part is you want to keep shoulder and elbow nice and relaxed. All right, let's do that again, and then I've got one little thing to add in at the end. Push from the last video, drop, wipe, sweeping the crumbs off, shift the weight, gather water, left hand scoops, right hand forms a beak. Stepping out, heel down, toe opening up, and as you shift the weight, turning the hips, left arm sweeps out with the hips, right toe releases around. Before we get into this last part, one note is that the arm is not moving independently of the body. The arm is moving because the body is turning. We want everything to be nice and integrated, okay? So from the beak, left arm sweeps out, but it's always staying in front of the torso. I'm not doing this, okay? Left arm sweeps out, right toe comes around. So this last little part, right now, my left palm is facing in, almost like I'm saying, I could have had a V8, okay? But we want the left palm to be facing out, almost like you're saying stop. To do that, I just mentioned that when we're turning here, we want everything to be nice and integrated. It's going to be the same thing with the turning the hand over. So we don't want to just turn the hand over and push. This is going to be arm strength, and if we were doing this as a martial art, this would be very easily overcome, okay? Instead, we want to take the left hip and draw the left hip in, letting the hand turn over, and then release the hip, letting the left hand press. Let me show that to you from the front. So from here, we want to draw the left hip in, let the hand turn over, release the hip, let the left hand press. You'll notice that I'm not swinging my arm around like this to push. This is staying pretty much on a straight line. I'm just, because my hip is drawing in, it's drawing my shoulder back, arm turns over, and then I release, and the hip goes forward, so the shoulder goes forward, so the arm goes forward. Okay? All right, so now let's really put it all together. So we're going to go from the push, hands drop flat, sink back and wipe. Right toe comes around. Shift the weight back, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand forms the beak. Stepping out, left heel down, toe opens up, single whip. Left arm sweeps out, right toe releases around. And then we're going to do this little hip hitch thing with the hip. So left hip draws in a little bit, hand turns over, release the hip, and press. Okay? Let's do it again. From push, drop, wipe. Right toe comes around. This is like brushing the crumbs off the counter. Shift the weight, gather water. Beak and scoop. Stepping out, opening up, single whip. Left arm sweeps out, right toe releases around, hip hitch, and press. Okay? Let me do it from another angle. So I'm going to do it starting with the push back here. From the push, hands drop flat. Sink back and wipe. Right toe comes around, shift the weight, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand beak. Stepping out, single whip. Right toe sneaks around, hip hitch, hand turns over, and press. Okay? Now let me do it from the back. From the push, hands drop flat. Sink back and wipe. Right toe comes around. Shift the weight, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand beak. Stepping out, single whip. Left arm sweeps around, right toe sneaks around. Hip hitch, hand turns over and press. All right, and then once from the side here. From the push, hands drop flat. Sink back and wipe. Right toe comes around. Shift the weight back, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand beak. Stepping out, single whip. Left arm sweeps out, right toe releases around, hip hitch, and press. All right, that's the single whip series. It's the most difficult move we've gotten to so far. So when you're doing it, you're going to want to make sure you practice it over and over again to get the repetition of it. Don't worry if you don't get it exactly right. We'll refine it over time, and you'll never get it exactly right because there's no such thing as perfection of a move, but we'll refine it over time so that you can get a good feel for it. Okay? And that's the single whip series.